Hey guys, this is Logan from the Willsey Farm channel, and today I'm going to be showing you how to reframe a wall in your house. So quick backstory, when this house was built in the 1930s, this room that I'm in right here was originally the porch. So sometime around the 60s, I want to say, they closed it in and they put these windows in here, here, and down here, and none of them were the same size, and they're outdated, they're fogged up, they're ugly, and I don't like the way it looks. And so my intentions were to put this thing back as if it were a porch that was closed in the right way. And typically in the old times when they'd close in a porch, they'd replace it with windows so that you still let light in the house. So what I'm doing is I'm putting 5 40 by 5 foot tall windows across the front, and then 2 doubles on each of the side walls. So there's going to be a double window there, and then a double window on that wall with 5 across the front. So what I'm doing basically is reframing this entire wall, and this is load bearing because it's the front of the house. You can see the roof rafters are sitting right on it. So what I'm doing is just one by one working my way from this end of the house. You can see there's the new framing and a couple new window openings there, down to this end of the house and into that little room over there where the white is. So first we can talk about the anatomy of a window frame first. So what we have up in the top here, this piece is called the header. And what the header is actually 2 pieces of 2x on edge like this. For this header we use 2x6 because it already has the old porch header above it here. So another one's definitely strong enough. And conventional 2x4s nowadays are actually 3.5 inches wide. So to make up 3.5 inches with an 1.5 inch width piece of wood times 2 is 3 inches. So we also have to put in a piece of plywood into the header, which gets laminated between the 2 2x. These are all things you want to make, all the pieces of the window you want to make first before you start cutting the old framing out. You want to have your 2 king studs, which are the 2 that cap the header off here and here. They go from floor to ceiling or floor to wall plate. And then after you have these 2 cut, you want to get those cut so that when you start to cut all the old framing out, you can stick them in where they're going to go and have them in there as props, just to, as quickly as possible, replace the structure and take the load back from what you just took out. So the first thing you want to do is get all your pieces cut, everything other than the jack studs here and here, the sill, and these little cripples. You want to have the 2 king studs cut and your header made so that you're basically already on a roll and ready to go as soon as you take this old framing out. So the first step I'm going to show you guys, if you look over here, is how to take out one of these old window sashes. And it's pretty easy. So all you do is open the window slightly, pull the top in or the bottom out, doesn't matter, and then pivot it out like this so that it fits out the window opening. And then take a knife or something and just cut the strings free. And just watch your eyes because they have a lot of tension on it. And then you can take the sash out in one piece without breaking the glass. And back when these were installed in around the 60s, most of the time it was just nailed in through the outside exterior molding. So if you just take a second and pop your molding off, then you'll see already this whole jamb is coming loose, and there it goes, just like that. The whole jamb unit pops right out. And then you're back to just regular framing again, which is easy. So then the next step is to lay out your opening. So before this started, I already measured out the width of the windows, divided it by the amount of spaces subtracted from the entire length of the house. So I already have my opening laid out. So I determined that this bit of old framing I'm not going to have to touch. It's just this forward until about here that I'm going to have to cut out. So there's no need to even touch any of that. So that's great. So all you have to do is run the Sawzall between the sheathing, which is the outside of the wall, and the stud, and then cut the top and bottom and pull it right out of your way, and then you can start rebuilding your new one. So I'm just going to make a quick time lapse. So I've taken out that temporary prop that was here, and I replaced it with a king stud and a jack stud. And what I did was I put the king stud in and nailed it right in the spot it's supposed to go, and then I put the jack stud by measuring down the height of the header and nailing it onto that king stud and into the ground also, or into the floor. But when you're working alone, this makes it easier to make a little pocket for yourself. So you could slide the header up on one side, tack it, and then work to the other side, put your king stud in and your jack underneath it. And guys, also, as you're putting framing in a house, make sure you're crowning the studs. What that means is looking at the piece of lumber down the edge of it like this, and seeing which way the crown is, if it's that way or if it's that way, and then mark it, because if you don't and you're just going at random, you're going to end up with a inside wavy sheetrock or wooden wall that's going to look ugly. So just keep all the crowns going the same way. Unless it's in the case of a jack and a king where they can fight each other, then you can oppose the crowns. But it really doesn't matter. So now that we have our header made, we have our pocket with our king and our jack stud. We're going to go ahead and cut our other king stud for this side. And this is going to help us so that once we slide our header up into our pocket, we can tack it to this other king stud. So the other thing is, the whole point of the header and this whole structure is to take the load from above, transfer it down onto this header, and then onto the jacks and the king around the window, so that you never have any of the weight of the house actually sitting on your window, because that would not be good. And this looks like it's going to need a little notch. So go ahead and knock that out quick. So guys, you want to cut these king studs also, just so that they're tight. But you don't want to make it so tight that you're damaging the stud getting it in there. And then just make sure you move that king stud out far enough so you can get your header in. Take one last look at your header and make sure that there's no screws or anything, nails from the sheathing that are sticking out. And then once you have that, you go ahead and throw your header in. So watch for your crown, make sure the crown is up. I'm going to stick this in the pocket. Like that. We're going to tap this over. reach away for 1 second. Women of prayer. Push up nice and tight. And just one tack underneath it just to hold it. Make sure it's nice and flush with the 2x that you're going to, because your wall coverings are going to have to ride over that. And then you can come over to your other side. It's good on the top. But you can see it's open a whisker. So what we're going to do is hit it by our king stud and drive it over. Okay, that looks better. Now it's ready for a nail. Oh, out of nails. You really want to make sure that you fasten the king and the jack to the header really well to make sure that all those pieces of framing are tied together. Even give it a couple angled up through the jack. Just like that. And then you're ready to go ahead and cut your jack for this other side here to go directly underneath the header. And you want to cut this one a whisker snug, just to make sure that you have all the weight on the header and nothing's going to come down to meet it. So 80 inches. We'll be right back. Alright, so here we go. Here's our jack. We're going to look down this edge, check the crown, which is out this way. That's how we're going to put it in our opening. Nice and snug. Then we can tie all that together. Make sure that the king and the jack are perfectly flush to each other too, because if not, when you go to put trim and your wall coverings on, it's just going to make it that much harder. So, taking your time and making sure everything stays nice and neat. And you're at the proper spot in the wall, you're making the proper measurements, is all worth going a little bit slower instead of trying to rush through this. Just make sure you're doing it right. And don't take a huge chunk of your wall's framing out. Don't take all the structure out of your house in one chunk. If you're going to be doing this, just work through it piece by piece. And if you're nervous, you can even go one stud at a time. Like just put in your king stud and then take the next one out. And it's just it takes a little bit longer to work like that. But there's nothing wrong with it if it's your first time doing this. Okay, so then what we're gonna do now, since everything is done off the ceiling because it's an old house and the floor is wavy, what we're going to do is take our measurements for our sill down off our header, and we're going to put the sill in, and then we're going to pull 16s, which is 16-inch on-center studs. You can pull it off an old part of the house and just hook your tape when it's on the wall, when the wall's totally gutted. Just hook your tape on an old stud, and when you see the studs start landing on 16s, or let's say 24s, it could be 16s or 24s, then you want to follow that same pattern. So once you see that there's a pattern in the studs, it could be from one side of the house or it could be going from the other side of the house going the other direction. Just try and find a pattern in the framing, because that's all it really is. It's just following the old pattern of the house. So we're going to go ahead and throw the sill in, and then we'll show you it all done. Alright guys, there's our finished product. There's the sill with the cripples underneath, our king and our jack, the header sitting nicely in there, and the other side as well. So there's the 4 across the front are done. Those are all going to be windows now. And I have one more to do in the office right here, and then I'm going to do the side walls, and I'll show you guys once those are all framed. Okay guys, so I have the last single window here in the office done. And then where this old double is, I'm going to put in 2 big ones together as a double. And then if you look this way, there's the rest of the porch area. So that last single's done. We're going to have to patch in the sheathing there. And then we're going to jump onto this one next. 6 o'clock on day 2 p.m. Here's the double window. Hard to get all that in the office. And the single going out the front, and then here's looking into the porch area. So we'll take a walk over there quick. House is in shambles. And then here's the rest of the windows out the front. See 4 in this room, and then the double over here on the wall. So guys, I'm sweaty, I'm hungry, but the framing is done. 2 days to pick up all the materials, bring the windows home, and get all the framing accomplished. Hey guys, day 3 morning, and I'm cutting out the window openings, and look how bent. This is my last new Sawzall blade out of a 5-pack. They all got so bent, or this part where it connects to the Sawzall broke off. Look at just, this thing is shot. So I went to get an old one out of my box, and look at the thickness comparison of these two. Look how much thicker this old one is here compared to that skinny one next to it. Can you believe that? These things have gotten so junky. These are both Diablo branded. They're exactly the same type of blade. It's just that this one is like 3 months older than this one. Here we are, ended day 3. We got 7 of the 9 windows in. Can't quite see it because it's so bright. There we go. And we'll go take a walk over to the office. Here's our double window in the office looking out. And there's the single. So then all that's left is the double that's going down here. And that'll be day 4, and then one more day to trim them out, and we'll call it good. All right, just before 9 o'clock on day 4, and guys, all the windows are in. Look how nice that looks now. It looks like a porch here. And you can't really tell through there, but the office is mirrored the same exact way. And one more quick money-saving tip. I found these windows at Home Depot. They were someone else's special order that they never came to pick up. So these are $533 windows marked down to $200. So that's over 50% savings, guys. I mean, keep your eyes peeled. If you know you have a project that you're trying to complete, just keep your eyes open, and eventually you'll run into a deal. So cheers, guys. Early morning beer, because we're done.